Thanks API Academy for this for organizing this event. Now we are going to talk about some antipatterns in microservices, and these are all some of the things that I observed in my journey. We have been doing smaller services and deploying them independently even before the term microservices was there, probably in 2008, and so I'm Vijay Alagarasan. I work for Asurion. So just a brief company overview. What we do, we are a white label technology protection service provider. We provide insurance, warranty, and the technical support for mobile devices, tablets, and laptops, or any, for that matter, any Wi-Fi enabled devices. And we also partner with retailers, and then we offer warranty protection services, and we have partnership with major carriers across the globe, and we are expanding our footprint, and we always have to integrate with our partners day in day out to service our customers. We serve almost over 290 million customers across the globe, a global company, and we are expanding, and that gives you a good problem context what we are dealing with. So why did we do microservices, right? So we wanted to be very agile. We wanted to release changes in a multi-tenant platform very frequently, very small, deploy quick, because we work with multiple partners. We have a different team that works with these individual partners, and obviously we wanted to have one platform that serve all these customers, and we serve them with multiple channels. So any experience or anything that you wanted to change, it has to be very quick, and you get multi-dimensional pressure to do that. And that's where we wanted to do, any feature, whether you wanted to add, remove, change, or build a new product by using existing capabilities. We thought microservices would be the best fit, or doing a smaller services in a meaningful way and deploy them independently. You could call that. And obviously, right, having these smaller services and exposing them as an APIs allows us to do, reach the customers via the channel that they are comfortable with. So it's basically an omni-channel approach, and that is possible, and we believe APIs and microservices would help us to go there, and we are doing it today. And in terms of cost reduction, so we are moving away from project-centric approach and doing more of a product-centric approach. Obviously, adding a product ownership in the organization, and from the business standpoint. So selling the product instead of trying to get a partner launched with the new services that we wanted to offer, instead of trying to define a product and then make them more nimble and make them more multi-tenant and make them ability to deploy them easily. And we believe having that multi-tenant platform in a nimble fashion over a period of time, it's going to cost benefit us. So I'm going to talk about 7 antipatterns. To giving a context behind how we came up with this, we have 2 different platforms. The legacy platform, where we started to build applications, from 2008, 2007, and we tried to do smaller services. We tried to deploy them independently, and we didn't consider all the constraints or all the prerequisites that we needed. But it was working because to a point, and we hit a mark after 5 to 6 years where we are not able to be that nimble, that scalable, and that's when we started to build another platform, considering or learning all those mistakes, and then trying to solve them or trying to set a foundation before we go at the path. So the first one is Cohesion Chaos. It's a when we started, right, we start with the one small service, And as I said earlier, we are very project centric. It could be any, you can take an example. Then we started to add functions, variations to that service. And then, you do not have a product visibility. All you have is a project visibility. What is the use case that I'm trying to solve for this particular instance or for this particular context of an application? And over a period of time, it became very complex to maintain and manage it. And you lose the way to scale it, you lose the way, or you lose an ability to keep up with the availability of it, or the performance of the service, or the scalability aspect to it. So we took a step back before we build a new platform to identify a business architecture or a business capability business model for the organization. That capability business model, you can call it as a domain or domain driven. So that capability, our business is more or less little different. Even though we are a white label protection company, we do supply chain, we do all this finance, and we do all those aspects. And we try to break our capability, business model into small domains, into small capabilities and multiple business functions underneath them. And we try to start building services based on that. So ended up in having smaller services, functionally cohesive, not really accidental or coincidence. It's more of functionally cohesive services and independently deployable, ability to scale, ability to evolve, change, replace. That's where we are. So that allow us to have your capability or business function to evolve, adopt, and then change for the needs, or probably replace, retire easily. So the second one is multi-layer services. This happened very well and very much in our platform. So there were layers built purely for technical concern. We have like a data access layer. You had to go through this layer in order to get access to your database. The fact we want to virtualize our databases so that you do not know where the database is, but you had to go through this service layer. And it's purely a technical concern. Or I'm building an adapter service. You had to go through this adapter service to integrate or whatever you wanted to do with another system. So what happens is, over a period of time, we have a business logic for a business function that happened to orchestrate all these smaller services, ended up in sprawling that logic across multiple services. So what we decided to do is we tried to build services that focusing on business function rather than technical concern. And when designing and packaging, we wanted to be more functionally cohesive than technical concern, and then deploy them independently. So this is more of aligning to my previous point, but it's more of I would often see we wanted to do small services. Should I just write a CRUD operation on a table or ORM kind of a thing? No, it doesn't really make sense if you are not thinking a service from a business perspective on what is the business function that you are trying to solve. And it makes, it is possible when you are thinking about a product-centric approach than the project-centric approach, and when you have an established capabilities and domain for your business. And automation, right? So with our previous platform, we never talked about it, we never think about it. So we started small, and we always focused on releasing new projects for a particular tenant in a very fast way. So we tried to when we tried to fix this problem later in the game. It was not possible. It was not easy to do it because you are always behind something in the schedule. So automate the testing portion, automate the deployment portion, automate the build portion. At least these three things are very minimum, and we are doing that today in our new platform. So if you do not do automation, forget about it. Doing microservices, because it's going to make your life worse, and because you are going to have more components to manage, and you have to be able to independently test and independently deploy a service, because you are supporting multiple channels and multiple consumers. So automation is a key if you wanted to do microservices. So this is another thing that we did it in multiple forms. Finally, we are getting along. when we do like, so many services, thinking about, we had like in our legacy platform, we had almost like 700 services. Managing the configuration is very, very hard, and we had like so many engineers just to do this, and we realized it, but we cannot change it in the middle. Now we are moving away from it and using, there are like several configuration management tools that aligns with our continuous deployment strategy. We are moving away from that and start using this, and where we were able to push our configuration as part of our pipeline, and that is what we are doing, and that is the right thing to do. So even you are starting small, invest time in it. It is going to help you, whether you wanted to grow in that space or whether you wanted to fail, it doesn't matter. Invest your time in in both automation as well as maintaining the configuration automatically. So those kind of things are really important. So this is another key thing for a company that does multi-channel approach. When we originally started, we always had a one channel, mostly an agent channel, and that supports you to serve the customer. Over a period of time, we wanted to increase the customer reach, so we opened up multiple channels. So when we originally, it's all about like, how do you make sure my service is 100% perfect, right? Should I go and ask somebody whether my service is working fine, or should I be, should I trust myself and make sure everything in my service is actually working as expected, right? So we always relied on consumers to give a testing sign off, which we call as an UAT sign off. So it delayed other consumer when one gave a sign off, another didn't give a sign off. So we have waited for everybody to give sign off to make sure its service is working from everybody else point. It's a very bad idea. So what we are trying to do now is we are trying to build an automated test suite, or at least a test suite with every service, and we are trying to include consumer-driven testings, like what are the use cases, try to build test cases for the use cases. I mean, it is an effort for the first time, but once you've done it, if developers moves on, doesn't matter. If nobody knows what the service does, doesn't matter. As long as you will be able to test the service very fast, right? And then you can deploy it immediately, right? So speed with quality. I think it's basically like you would be able to deploy these services in the fast fashion. At the same time, you are ensuring the quality is good. So test automation and making sure you have a test suite for every services that covers all the test cases, and also the consumer driven, focused more on consumer aspects as well. That's a good way to do it, and you have to do it from day one. You cannot if you miss it, you miss it. You will not able to fix it back. So this is another concept that we try to do. I mean, we have been doing this. So the versioning strategy. So what happens if something breaks? How can you make sure when you do have multiple consumers, multiple channels, and they are different business units, they have a different product owners? How do you ensure you are having a flexibility when you roll out a new backward compatible or a major version, right? So backward compatible is always fine. You can do deployment. You don't even need to tell your consumers. It automatically works fine for them because it's backward compatible. But the major versions are behavioral changes. It could be a behavioral change, or it could be a contract breaks, right? So how do you abstract that, right? All we do is, the way we are doing is we are deploying side by side major versions and having a different endpoints for those. So consumer will have a time, to migrate it, and then we have a governance body around it. We cannot go ahead and keep on just deploying major versions, and if consumer never migrates, you are screwed, right? So there is a governance body around it. And another way that we are trying to approach is we are trying to get in, since these are all small services, we are trying to have exposed them via API gateway. That gives you a facade layer, kind of a buffer to some of your consumers. But again, there is a trick in that. Then you may start to sprawl your business logic into the API gateway. So you may have to make sure, that business logic still stays in the backend service, and you are still allowing, the facade to work as it is. So this is another thing that we started to adopt last year, We try to expose our services and API, and via an API gateway, consumers' lives getting simpler with this one. So microservices supports different technology for different reasons, and different business units has their own independence, and they have their own technology stack, or they can pick whatever they wanted to, no restrictions. We don't do that. And but the way they expose services, the way the contract is done, the way they deploy, where it is deployed. When you go to a consumer, like a customer facing application, like it could be a web, UI, mobile, whatever it is, they feel so much of challenge to maintain all these configurations of, if for a UI to work, if you wanted to orchestrate a class like 100 services, think about it, right? I mean, how do you manage all the configurations, right? So API gateway simplifies that in multiple fashions. It allows us to give the monitoring ability about your performances of the services, and also it secures in a standard way from the consumer standpoint, and it simplifies the connectivity, whether your consumer is in cloud or in a different data center, it could be a partner, it doesn't matter. So it simplifies the connectivity, and it simplifies our overall networking architecture itself. So we are actually doing that. We haven't done that before, and we are doing that right now. So to summarize that, so going back, right, I mean, microservices is not a silver bullet 100%. I mean, several people mentioned about that a while ago. So but these are all 7 things that I really observed. If we have time and money to spend before even you start the project, we'll have to make sure some of these or most of these, we have a strategy or you have a plan before we start even building one microservice. I think for an enterprise scale, whatever we are doing, this is very, very important. I mean, for maybe not applicable for startups and all, but from when we talk about an enterprise, when we are trying to build a greenfield platform, and to be able to go fast and things like that, and I believe these 7 mistakes, I think we have to keep an eye on, and always have to have a plan to rectify that, and if at all if it's happening, and identify them early and resolve it very quickly. Otherwise, it is very hard once you've gone to a path, and once you start to release even if you release like a couple of applications into production with several set of services, it's very hard. Thank you.